Check, check, check. Check. Hello all, welcome. So, Ajahn Kovilo and I we missed being here for these last 2 weeks. We were at Pacific Hermitage Paba and then down at Karuna Buddhist Vihara helping build a kuti. Despite only bringing sandals, our feet lived. It's a monastic mistake. And then at Abhayagiri, but it's very good to be back. And we did kind of want to honor all the people who shared at the community stories session 2 Saturdays ago. We did listen and just really valued those who were willing to step up and share their path to Dhamma with the community. A few notes. One is next week we'll have our friends from Karuna Buddhist Vihara, Aya Santusika and Aya Chittananda. Who has met them before or knows of them? They're amazing, and they'll be here next week with us all. So just encouraging people to come here and participate in that kind of moment. Additionally, we will have an announcement now from Brianna, I believe, who will need a microphone.
And here's an announcement that anyone, especially someone who hasn't done it, who would like to be the mic runner today, is very welcome to do so. Who hasn't done it?
We've got one over there.
Great. It'll get to you.
We have to make sure they have a job, Brianna.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, hi everyone. It's good to see so many faces. A big group today. Awesome. So, brief announcement about a search for. I'm going to start over. So, for the past year, I've been the land search lead. As you know, the Clear Mountain Monastery project is looking for land, and we have been looking for land. And we're in an exciting moment, and it's been full of all sorts of wonderful adventures and lots of patience. And I'm going to be stepping away from the land search lead role because I'm going to be going up to Port Townsend to stay with Ayananda Bodhi for a little while. And so we are looking for a new lead. And so this is a position, it's evolving. So we are, many of you know, we've put in an offer, we're going through negotiation, there's potential that we get a contract. There's also potential that, that will fall through and we'll go back to the search. But we are looking for someone to step into the role of leading that. It's a sort of role that is, kind of like management, coordination, coordinating people in teams and things like that. Could be related to due diligence and contractors, or it could be related to sort of searching for land and getting the right people together to go see the land, make decisions around that, depending on what unfolds in the next month or so. So it's a really exciting opportunity. We have sort of the post or the sort of narrative summary of what we're looking for over by Dave on the table, right behind Dave. There's just 3 copies, so look at them, read them, and then maybe leave them there. You can ask me any questions if you want to as well. I'll be here. And yeah, if you know of anyone else in the community, encourage them if they might be a good fit. And we are hoping to, find someone really great for this exciting role. So that's all I have. Anything else?
Just, Brianna's been absolutely instrumental in this search, and it's a big deal. We interviewed a quantum physicist more or less yesterday, and he asked about the land for a pre-recorded interview, and we said it was in a state of superposition. So it is, we don't know where it's going to land yet, so to speak, but it's exciting, and these things are quite magical, and the chance to be a part of the creation of a refuge like this for generations is really precious. So we know this is not a small role, but if you have that inspiration to kind of feel like this is something you'd like to give a portion of your life to actually this year, it would be an enormous benefit to Clear Mountain, and who knows, we might have a home sooner rather than later, even without the disco ball. So one thing I do want to make sure to do is Brianna's stepping back because she's pursuing more deeply her kind of spiritual path by going to stay with Parayana Vihara with Ayananda Bodhi. And I thought 3 big Clear Mountain sadhus for everything Brianna's done this last year. It's been a huge gift to us. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Yeah, that's all I got. Good. Oh, Milo stepped into publicity steward role. We really needed that. So, way to go, Milo. 3 more sadhus for Milo. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you for that. If it's all right, Miles on Zoom wanted to make a quick announcement.
Please, Miles.
Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. So I'm here in Chennai, India, but one of my good friends, my Dhamma brother, Pavel Katorgan, is there today. So I just want you guys to swarm him and love on him as much as possible. That's him right there. He is just an incredible person. He's created find.dhamma.gift, which is like a Poly Canon search engine. It kind of really helped me in my kind of Poly research and Sutta research and things like that. And he is just a powerhouse of a human being, pretty much one of the smartest guys I've ever met in my life. And before the Dhamma, he was also like a world-class classical guitar player, and I think was even on like Kazakhstan's version of The Bachelor. I hope it's okay that I'm saying this, Paul. But anyways, just please, give him as much love as possible. And I wish I could be there with you guys in person. Lovely to see all your faces. But just thought I would let you guys know that Pavel is there all the way from Kazakhstan. I mean, he didn't fly there today from Kazakhstan, but that's his home. So, all right, thank you.
Miles, great to see you. And he's quite a hype man. So, welcome. It's great to have you here. Takaki's also visiting from Portland, so I want to honor that. Takaki, if you could raise your hand so we can just embarrass you a little bit back there. So, as most of you know, our first Saturday of the month, we usually give the 3 refuges and 5 precepts for those who want to take them. And the Buddha talked about this as kind of the basis of a human life. He talked about the 5 precepts as great dana, mahadana, in that you're giving the gift of fearlessness to those who live around you and exist in your orbit. So if those who are inclined can join someone in requesting the precepts, Matt, warning over there, and if you want to take them, just consider these a reaffirmation of the level of sila, virtue you wish to hold, and a gift to those who encounter you.
And once again, you could be in this role as well. I would love for people to join. As you can contact me and I'll add you to the list of the chanters. It's a wonderful experience. Okay?
Perfect.
My,
Which page, Matt?
Page 126 in your hymnal.
We don't have to call it that.
Mayam bante tisara nena saha jasilani yachama dutiampe mayam bante tisare nena saha pancha silani yachama tatyampi mayam bante tisare nena saha pancha silani yachama.
People can turn to page 128. If you're on Zoom or YouTube, you can find the link to this chanting book in the chat. Page 128, and repeat after me. We'll do the Pali for these refuges, and then the precepts will be in Pali and English. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranam gacchami. Dhammang saranam gacchami. Sanghang saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranam gacchami. Tisarana gamanang nittitang, and you say ama bante.
Panati pata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature. Adinna dana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which has not been given. Kame sumichachara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct. Musawada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from lying. Sura meraya majjhapamadadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness. Imani pancha sikkhapadani samadhiyami. Silena sugating yanti, silena boga sampada, silena nibuting yanti, tasma silang visodaye. Okay, so we can sit meditation together. And I would invite those who are open to experimenting to actually take this as an open-eyed meditation. So mindfulness is a mental skill, a mental faculty, which we need to learn how to exercise, both with our eyes closed and our eyes open. And there are ways to become skilled at doing it with one's eyes actually open. So I won't be looking around, I won't be judging anybody who has their eyes closed, but if you want to experiment, this is a good time. So to start with, just allowing your gaze to be soft and looking roughly in front of you. And allow your gaze to open up to the peripheries. as if there was a oval band at the upper, lower, and both sides extent of your vision, and just see if you can be aware of that whole band, allowing your gaze to be soft. And we'll be practicing with 6 words, or 6, it's almost yoga moves for the heart. And the first one is fading away. So just doing a check through the whole body and mind, and just what is it that's keeping us from being right here, right now? Could be some restlessness, could be some tiredness, could be some irritation. Whatever it is, imagine it had a color, and then allow that color to fade away. So if it's a reddish irritation, just as the sun would gradually fade away the color red from a cloth, so to allowing the mind to fade away, fade off of whatever's keeping us from the present moment. To unhook from that. And the second word, the second heart yoga move is cessation. And by that I mean ceasing the constant going out with the mind or with the eyes, and just allow the mind to drop into the body. So this is a move of embodiment. Ceasing proliferation outwards and fully embodying. Feeling from the body, in the body, with the body. The whole body, or as much as you can. I'm remembering not to, if you find yourself fixating with your gaze, just softening that. And then dropping down into the body as we cease to go outwards. In the body, embodying. The next word is relinquishment. And with this mind stance, we're going to relinquish the compulsion forward, the obsession with what's in front of us, and just open up your awareness to that which is behind you. And that's opening with all your senses. You can't totally see what's behind you. But if there was a big reflective wall or a big black foam wall, the light you would be receiving would be different, even if that wall was behind you. And what do you hear behind you? Just opening this space behind you, relinquishing the compulsion forward. You might be able to hear people behind you. And when you become sensitive, you can actually notice that you can hear space, the way that sound reflects in a space. And feeling, you can feel your whole back just opening up to the whole universe behind you. And the next word is let be. Or letting go. And here what we're letting go of is the perception of us being a tiny, separate little person inside of a totally unconnected world. And letting go, and you can almost imagine or feel what it would be like to see yourself, to feel yourself from a witness behind you. This is the movement that begins to recognize as you let go of tiny me. It's a movement that feels and realizes that the mind is not in the body, but the body is inside the mind. And it's not that the mind is in the world, but actually the world is in the mind. Everything we're experiencing, all the sight, sound, smells, touch, behind us are actually, as far as we experience in them, only taking place in our hearts, in our minds. The next word is release. And this is the stance where you include the inner experience and the outer experience, and both inner and outer. You're experiencing your whole world as if it's an ocean, and you're just a tiny little sponge. And just releasing into that multi-sensory experience, just including inner and outer. And the last phrase is without attachment. So here you just rest in this big mind, which is inclusive of all the senses, inclusive of inner and outer, isn't shrunk and fixated within a tiny mold. And with this non-attachment, just blend this into metta. And you can imagine that this whole space, which is right here, is right now, just filled and perfumed, filled and pervaded by loving kindness, just without limit. And this without attachment is just resting and letting all that be.
those who would like to join in on the invitation, page 124 in the chanting book. Rama Chaloka Dipati Sahampati Kat Anjali Anan Diwaramaya Jata Santi Sasata Parajaka Jatika Detui tu Dhammam Anukam Painam Pajam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So maybe just to get a show of hands, who experimented even just a little bit with that open-eyed meditation? All right, quite a few people, that's great. I think it'll be useful. I thought today to specifically speak about social anxiety and self-consciousness, which a lot of people feel, and thought to offer a Buddhist framework for what is social anxiety, how can one relate to it, how can one actually even possibly heal the heart from that constant fear and trembling in social situations. So the framework I thought would be useful is perhaps the most helpful Buddhist framework for people to memorize, and that's the Four Noble Truths. So in a traditional Buddhist context, that's framed as the truth of suffering, which is to be understood, the truth of the cause of suffering, which is to be abandoned, the truth of the cessation of suffering, the ending of suffering, which comes about from, or is to be realized, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering, which is to be developed. So you can take that four-part framework, which is actually the Buddha borrowed it from ancient Indian medical diagnoses. So the first thing is you diagnose what the disease is, you diagnose the problem. So here it's suffering. Then he gives the etiology, i.e. the cause of that illness, whatever it is. Then he gives the prognosis, that there is a cure. There's a cure for this disease. There's a cure for suffering. And then he gives the kind of medical regimen, what you have to do to be able to get rid of that disease. And it's a really fascinating framework for the causality of health and the causality of illness, whether that's health and illness on the level of the body or health and illness on the level of the mind. So you can use it for many things, and maybe in a future talk I've been able to, my own version of the Four Noble Truths of communism, the Four Noble Truths of Christianity. You can do the Four Noble Truths. You can just imagine how each of these different worldviews holds what is, I'll just tell you Christianity real quick. This is my view, and Christianity is a huge thing, but basically, what is the First Noble Truth of Christianity? In a very broad, totally insufficient way, the First Noble Truth of Christianity is separation from God. The cause of that separation is original sin. The solution to that separation is salvation through Jesus Christ, and the way leading to that cessation is faith in Jesus Christ, or depending on the denomination, that could just be enough, or it might be good works as well. The Ten Commandments also come up in the Bible. So That's just one example of using this framework of disease, etiology, prognosis, and cure. So today I'll maybe speak to the Four Noble Truths of social anxiety, and specifically the experience of social anxiety. So I'll hold that as different from social anxiety itself and frame the first noble truth of anxiety just as its experience, which is to be understood. Social anxiety itself might fall under the second aspect of that which is to be abandoned. But the experience, the feeling of coming into a group and trembling, the physicality of the unrest, the shaking, certainly the mental fear, trembling, trepidation, shakiness, dis-ease, that exists, but there's also a physical element, and that is to be understood. So before trying to abandon the anxiety itself, we just try to understand it. So what is social anxiety? So social anxiety definitely has, there's an anatomy to anxiety, and this is fascinating. There's this, it's almost when I look at somebody, it's like there comes a point when initially things aren't problematic. I just look at anybody and it's just, you know, it's just like anything else. It's looking at a wall or looking at the ground. You know, we're all just elements. But then there comes a point when the I clicks in, letter I. The letter I kicks in, looking at someone else's eyes, E-Y-E, and they instantiate me. They, you know, in my own mind, I am imagining them concretizing me. There's this reification process, this almost deification process where there didn't have to be an I, and then just my compulsion and kind of fear and selfing and othering just creates this I. There's this spotlight effect of overestimating, because I'm the center of my experience and you're the center of your experience, that we think the whole world, when we shift accidentally into this mode, that the whole world revolves around us and that the spotlight is always on us. And we misjudge that actually everybody else is just thinking about themselves pretty much all the time, and they don't actually care that much about us. But we feel, okay, the spotlight's on me, and now I'm being watched. I've been implicated by somebody else's eyes. And so much of that is imagination. It's this first-person transparency effect, which isn't actually real. We feel that our brain and our body and our personhood, our soul, is transparent. People can see directly into our soul. They can directly see into our soul. And I came up with a somewhat useful phrase. So when either you're looking at someone else's eyes into between the iris is the colorful part of the eye, and straight into the pupil, the black part of the eye, or someone else is looking directly through our iris straight into our pupil, just realize it's not a looking at our soul, it's just a sphincter and a hole. They're not looking into our soul, it's just a sphincter and a hole. That's all the iris, a sphincter, so everybody doesn't know, is basically a muscle, and we got a bunch of sphincters in our bodies. We got a bunch of them. Orbicularis oculi, this kind of thing that squeezes the eye closed and shut, that's a sphincter. The iris itself, that colorful part of the eye that we become fascinated and we fall in love with people because they've got these really colorful eyeball sphincters. But it's just a sphincter. It's a muscle which closes and opens based on how much light is coming in or how emotionally activated we are. And that can be emotions of fear, it can be emotions of love, but that iris sphincter just opens up. So it's not a window to the soul, it's just a sphincter and a hole. Another fun muscle in the face is the corrugator supercilii. And if you were to look at the word, you might think it's just supercilly, but it's supercilii. And that's this muscle which goes down like this, and it's not at all superciliary. It's that one which just totally makes us frown in on people. It makes us browbeat ourselves and kind of skepticize other people. Really? And it's just muscular movement of the face. It's just the moisture of the eyeball, very natural, anatomical, physiological physics of having an eyeball and being able to see. But there's a process of entification. This is a word, it's a real word. Entification, creating an entity. I create an entity out of myself. So this is the problem, the spotlight effect and all the anatomy. And if we aren't careful, if we haven't been careful, then it has become a habit. And often, this is one of these times when the story of past lives really kind of makes sense. It's possible that the fear and the trepidation that we just comes up so quickly and so viscerally, so somatically when we're in certain social situations, that could just be enough training from whatever, some level of incompetent parency or, incompetent or just lack of skill in relating to our own mind and social situation. But it feels so animalistic, and the experience of so many animals outside of pampered upper middle class dogs and cats, most animals in the world, it's a life of mutual devouring. There's so much fear in most animals' existence, and that's why, having this acute awareness of the contrast between sclera, which is the whites of the eye, and the iris, the color of the eye, we can see that even in our peripheries. Our vision actually extends beyond 180 degrees to about 210 degrees. Like this. Because of the circular, spherical nature of the eye, we can actually see beyond just 180 degrees. So you can see the predator, you can see the leopard, just their eyes even moving in the distance. So if you're an antelope, you get out of there. You get out of there. And we've just taken that, and you can think about it in terms of evolution. Okay, our ancestors were afraid and whatever, but maybe it was past life. Maybe you were an antelope in a past life, or maybe you were that leopard. So that's what social anxiety is. It's a very visceral, animalistic, unreasonable, honestly, self-based fear, which is unnecessary. So that's the experience of social anxiety, and it's to be understood. We need to be able to feel into that, to not be afraid of the shaking and the trembling and all of the things the mind throws up, the thoughts like, oh, they know me, they can see me, they know that I'm afraid, or they know that I'm awkward, or they know that I'm poor, or they know that I'm good at this, or they know that I'm bad at that. And so much of that, people don't really care that much. People don't really care that much. And even if they do, it's so much of a partial account of what we are. But we latch onto that because we don't know how not to. So the second noble truth of social anxiety is the cause, which is social anxiety, anxiety itself. In Pali, the word for anxiety is kukucha. It's one of the 5 hindrances, which are to be abandoned. So one of the practices of breath meditation, which is in our chanting book, is to train oneself. I will breathe in, relaxing the bodily formation. So when you notice that self-consciousness, that you've created an I, that your body is trembling, just physically, okay, relax the shoulders, relax your eyeballs, relax your hands, okay, soften, get a little bit of softness. And also you can work with the perception of not self. So there are lots of types of self in modern day usage. There's a lot of ways that we use the word I or self. And one type of self which we experience, definitely if you experience self-consciousness, extreme self-consciousness, or social anxiety, which not everybody does, but Albert Camus a existentialist, absurdist, philosopher who is, just by happenstance, roughly contemporaneous with Luang Por Chah. They never met, but at any rate, he was thinking about the body and the mind in a very different way. He wrote The Stranger, and it seemed like he was an acute experiencer of social anxiety. He said, people don't realize that for some people, the extremity of just being normal takes an immense amount of effort. Some people don't realize the immense effort it takes just to be normal. So if you don't experience that yourself, open yourself to feeling compassion for those who do. But again, okay, so we can relax the physicality of social anxiety, to abandon it that way, or to work towards its abandonment that way, and on the level of mind. This is a type of self, the self that we're afraid other people will see. The self which, oh, he can see that I'm ... That self is not real. The self which we're afraid is going to be exposed by other people's gaze doesn't really exist. You can be agnostic, or if you're coming from other faith backgrounds, Hindu, Christian, most Abrahamic religions, you might, okay, maybe there is a capital S soul, but this tiny little, let's say middle, in between capital and lowercase s, self, that is the self that has been reified and concretized by ourselves and others of, I'm afraid that they have witnessed my utter inferiority. That's a type of self which we can let go of and relax around. So this is when we can practice that. The Buddha talked about 8 worldly winds, which everybody, including arahants, that is enlightened people, and all of us non-enlightened people. So you have 4 pairs. The positive aspect of each starts with a P. So we got 4 Ps of pleasure and pain. We've got profit and loss. We've got praise and blame, and we've got popularity and disrepute. And all of us love those first Ps. We love the pleasure, and we love the profit, and we love the praise, and we love the popularity. But all the other ends, oh no, we don't want that. We don't want that. But these are worldly winds. Everybody, including the Buddha, experiences both of these because we're not in control of those. So learning to get a handle, there will be blame, there will be dukkha, there will be loss, there will be disrepute. So there's a book written by Mark Mason, something like that. But it's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving. And I'll leave the rest to your imaginations. But I think there is an aspect of a Buddhist subtle art of not giving a darn. Like, I can only control, I'm the owner of my karma, my actions, heir to my karma, born in my karma, whatever I do for good or for ill, of that I'll be the heir. And whatever is being posited upon me is actually not under my control. I just need to learn this subtle art. It's not a complete ignoring of everybody, but it's an ignoring of this, my own and others, entification of the me, which is lesser. Okay? So just a subtle art of not giving a darn about other people's perceptions of me in a very, very healthy way. Not dismissing them, because it might be true to some extent, but just not letting it absolutely capture, attentional capture, awareness capture. This is what happens to so much of us, honestly, for most of our lives, is that some emotion or thought comes into the mind in the aperture, which could be totally universal, a very spherical, open awareness. We're getting information from all around through multiple senses, but as soon as that thought, he can see that I'm ugly, comes up, the whole universe will shrink down into that perception. The aperture closes and the body gets tight. So abandoning that to the extent we can, both anatomically, physiologically, getting better at feeling your body from the inside and letting go, and psychologically. You don't need to hold that. You can just let that aperture up. You can, okay, it is tight, and I'm still experiencing my back. And that's where we transition into this third noble truth of social anxiety, which is to be realized. And so that guided meditation was basically the wording from the definition of the third noble truth in a Buddhist context. So on page 105, you have, of the chanting book, you have the definition of the third noble truth. It is the remainderless fading away and cessation of that craving. It's relinquishment, letting go, release without attachment. So what we're doing with, and this is a present moment. These, again, are present moment, first-person, heart-based yoga moves that we can do right now. If you're started to experience social anxiety, the other person has made me a me, or I've imagined that their eyeballs have seen my soul, and I've gotten tense. And I can't just immediately let up that tension, but immediately I can do each of these gestures. So fading away, realizing, okay, fading away from that tiny aperture. They know that I'm poor. They know that I'm not that intelligent. Okay, fading away from that. Assign it a color. It feels like a gray fuzz and just fading away from that. And the next step is cessation. And this is ceasing the proliferation, the outward going knowing, and this is embodiment, coming into the body. So the mind wants to fixate and the body wants to be tight, but now we embody as we cease to go outwards and cease to be tight, and just soft body, ceasing in the present moment. You can do this. Again, this is a present moment thing you can do for your social anxiety. So memorizing this list, because if you ever experience it, either in small ways, like you might happen during the potluck, or in your business meeting, or when you're just walking the street and some random stranger you feel like looks into your innermost soul, these are things you can do in all of these occasions. So fading away, cessation, coming into the body, relinquishment, and that's when I had everybody come back to the whole universe behind us. We're so compelled forward. I've seen your pupils, you've seen my pupils, but I can still feel my whole back. There's still the sensations of the wind at my back. There's a whole universe of space which doesn't care about my tiny world perception, the tiny me that I've made. So feeling that whole universe behind us, this is the relinquishment of forwarding, of fronting. Relinquishing that, coming back behind us. Next one is letting go. So letting go of even the tiny me, which is attached, and just seeing ourselves almost, feeling ourselves from, as if from behind, witnessing that. The next step is releasing. And this is when you include both the inner and outer experience. So yes, there is another person, there is me, there is my tension, there is anxiety, there is a burp. There's all of that exists, including it all, but just releasing. It doesn't have to be a problem. Feeling all the good, the bad, the body, that which is outside the body, in front, around, and everywhere. And the final step is letting be, or without any attachment. So I didn't see many people look in the book. No pressure. You can memorize it later, but memorizing these 5, because they all have specific moves, mental moves you can do in the present to at least get a little bit bigger than the tininess that your world has become. So fading away, cessation, relinquishment, letting go, release without any attachment. So that's the definition of the third noble truth of social anxiety. And the fourth noble truth of social anxiety is the path, which is to be developed. And here are long-term cures. So the Buddha said, he gave certain advice. There's a pericope, or a stock phrase, which you find in many different suttas for one possessed of characteristic X, whether they approach any assembly, whether it's an assembly of nobles, or an assembly of Brahmins, or assembly of merchants, or an assembly of workers, still they approach that assembly confidently and composedly. So what are those characteristics? And these are long-term approaches because he's talking about faith. For one possessed of faith, even the faith, okay, there is not a self. Or faith in the Buddha. The Buddha said when you recollect the Buddha, that there are enlightened beings, that there is awakening in a human life, then that can give assurance, it can give confidence. But it doesn't happen automatically like those third noble truth gestures. It can take time of engendering faith in the triple gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. The Buddha said for one possessed of morality, any assembly they approach, whether it's a blue-collar worker or a white-collar worker or someone who's poor or someone who's rich or someone who's Caucasian or someone who's Asian or someone who's African American or somebody who's Asian, whatever it is, you can approach that assembly confidently and composedly, without fear. Others used to say, without fear, not trembling, comfortable in your own body. When you have this sila, I can trust myself, and you can trust me as well. And again, this you have to practice it for a long, some period of duration, so as to have that self-assurity that comes from being able to trust yourself and other people can trust you. And also generosity. For one possessed of generosity who gives freely, who's open-handed, magnanimous, any assembly that they approach, whether it's an assembly of people with curly hair or with wavy hair or with curly hair or straightish hair or short hair or no hair, you can approach any assembly without fear, confidently and composedly. When you're generous, it's like, I like to give, and there's a largesse, a bigness of heart, because I'm a good person, even if that little person's pupils are telling me, you're a stingy guy, and you're whatever you are. Actually, I know, I've been giving for a long time, I've been keeping precepts for a long time, I've had faith for a long time, so I can trust myself. Other people can trust me. There comes a sense of self-assuredness. So these are the 4 noble truths of social anxiety. And I really hope that you can at least memorize, memorize that list of the 4 noble truths and the duties, which we call the 4 noble moves. That is the problem, the diagnosis of dukkha is to be understood. The experience, the feeling of social anxiety, the experience of social anxiety is to be understood. The cause of that, the cause of suffering, is to be abandoned. The cessation of dukkha is to be realized, and the path is to be developed. That's the first thing you should remember. Those 4 truths and those 4 moves. And then see if you can memorize this list of 5 things you can do in the present, these 5 moves. And even if you don't remember the actual words, just the mental gesture of, okay, letting go, which is fading away, relinquishment, which is embodying, that's cessation, which is embodying, relinquishment, which is opening up to the whole world behind us, letting go, which is actually seeing, releasing, which is including, and without any attachment. That's just, I can be cool with that. I can just be with all that. I can just let all that be. So a really good list. You might think, oh, memorizing lists is dorky. That's for the poly nerds. What you need to do, if you find a list and you don't like lists, and you're like somebody who is like a romantic type, you need to be able to take these lists and make them into a song. And I'll leave it at that. Okay, so we can open things up for anybody who's here in person. Mike Runner, could you tell me your name? I don't know.
Ryan.
Ryan, great. It's good to meet you. I've seen you online, so.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. Ryan will bring you a mic so people on Zoom can hear. And if anybody on Zoom had a question or a thought, you can raise your hand as well.
Hi, thank you for that talk. What comes to me as I listen to that is I think about like metta as a antidote to fear. And I think it's implied in what you were talking about, but maybe you could say a little more about self-compassion and metta as in the very beginning of just feeling that pain before letting go is like actually bringing metta to that moment, or self-compassion. That's what came to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's another sutta where this says, sutta that says, for one who's is endowed with cultivation or meditation, and the implication one can be of loving kindness. For one who's developed loving kindness, they too can approach an assembly confidently and composedly. And you're totally right. And I think that, I feel that loving kindness is almost an embodiment and a livingness of those 6 gestures. You're less fixed on the tiny story. You've opened up with kindness to a broader world. You've embodied to a softness of body. You've included more of the universe than just yourself. You've seen that you're just a tiny little sponge in a whole ocean, and included yourself as well, and then just been okay with that. So I think loving kindness can also use and utilize all those different gestures as well. So I really appreciate you highlighting that, and would love to hear what Ajahn Nisabo says, if you had anything.
Yeah, I think the practice of metta is, when I spent a year at a small Thai monastery, and just feeling quite isolated there. And, I think the cure when you're feeling lonely, anxious, afraid is to think, you need love, you need care. But that arithmetic never balances out. You can never receive love, not really. You can give love. And I think that was the antidote for me, was starting to spread loving kindness about, just for a large portion of my meditation, was you realize that you're kind of holding your goblet out to the world to fill up, but actually what you need to do is fill up the world's goblet, and that healed the heart and made me less afraid completely. And I think mapping it onto Ajahn Kovilo's Four Noble Truths framework is really useful, because another way of looking at the ordering of those Four Noble Truths is, when we're feeling afraid or FOMO, whatever it is, there's this compulsion to join the conversation, to, jump in, to make ourselves known, or to somehow perform. And from my experience, if you act from that place of craving, tanha, it never wins. It just makes things worse. You dilute yourself. And it's interesting, because actually the exact opposite motion of the heart is almost always correct, in the sense that if you have the compulsion to go out, just holding still for a time until that kind of wounded, raw wound that wants to jump in, that wants to be known, has a chance to quiet down, and then you've touched cessation, peace, even briefly. And then my experience is that from that place you can move back into a situation or a social thing, and actually things are quite, there's less fear, less anxiety. And so for what I'll do is, if I'm feeling really wanting to be a part of everything and not being able to, comparing, I'll actually, instead of jumping in, I'll pull back and just for 1 minute or 2 minutes duck into another room and close my eyes. And suddenly there's this quick consolidation of the mind and like a reboot. And then I'll spread loving kindness. Like if I'm in the back seat of a car, just holding metta for a while, instead of jumping into the conversation I want to be a part of, like come to myself and just spread love. And you're right, it's this sort of counterintuitive movement of the heart. Instead of going out to be participating, you go in and you find the refuge was there in you all the time. And then when you move back into the world, there's just this clarity, and you approach from the right tact, and loving kindness, I think, is the key ingredient, and patient and restraint and a willingness to re-center. So thank you for bringing that up. That's been an antidote for me too.
We have a question on Zoom from Brooke.
Please, Brooke.
Hey, sorry, it's not a question. I didn't know that you wanted questions. I just want to share metta and say thank you for another beautiful Dharma talk. And I've been YouTubing for 20 plus years. And yeah, you're definitely right. Like, there are times when you want to jump in and join that conversation. But if you have a really strong conversation with yourself and your inner being, that desire can very easily fade. So sorry, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to share metta and say thank you again for a great talk.
Thank you, Brooke. Please. Whoever said hi. No.
Yeah, it's really interesting that I came in and you're talking about social anxiety, because I've actually been experiencing some of the most anxiety ever, like the last 3 weeks, and it's really hit me out of left field is what it just like came on so intensely, and it's been really, really challenging for me. And at times I've been trying to accept in the moment, just accept the feeling as it is, but the intensity of it has been so high that almost makes me focus on it. So you talking about like, it's okay to try to like breathe in and actually relax the body was really helpful. So I don't know if you have any more words on that, of like accepting it as it is, but also, being able to relax or do something to allow that space to be there. Because I've just been finding the intensity of it has just made me focus when I'm trying to accept it as it is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think that's kind of this distinction between the first and the second of these noble truths is the feeling of it we can't immediately change. So being able to some extent, be with the experience as it is, and the anxiety, the mental kind of proliferation around that is something which we can kind of more and more let go of and get more and more skill at letting go of. But you can also, it's a kind of a blurry line between those two, but it really is a skill that you can get better at breathing in softness. And wish you all the best. And it is a spectrum from, at least in terms of social anxiety, from people who are just introverts, which is not at all a pathology. It's just a inclination, someone who's an introvert, versus shyness, which is, it's a fear of other people. There's a degree of anthropophobia, the fear of other people. And then there's this social anxiety, which takes it to a whole nother level. So there's nothing wrong with like wanting to have time alone. And if it is really extreme, I think, as Ajahn Nisabo said, there was a time, if things get really extreme, you can always just go to a bathroom and close the stall door and just like, if the toilet's clean enough, you can just sit on the toilet seat and just be like, I'm gonna chill out. Nobody knows that I'm meditating or chilling out in here, and just give myself, 4.5 minutes to not have to engage, to just let the body recalibrate. So just one thing you can do.
I wouldn't use that bathroom for that because the stalls don't lock, actually. Can I quickly ask if there's any, Ajahn Kovilo's reflections were perfect, and can I just ask if there's any other kind of, confounding conditions in life right now that might be catalyzing the crescendo of anxiety, or is there anything else particular that's worth mentioning? Not to pry at all, just curious for any more context.
It's not social anxiety, but it's interesting you were just talking about anxiety in general, because it's just been so prevalent for me the last few weeks. I'd say it's, I guess one way to put it without being super specific is an over focus on worrying if I've done anything wrong. Like, yes. And guilt, shame, fear, like really overreacting to that would be, without being specific, a way to explain.
Yeah. Who else has been in this sort of self-recrimination, concern, worry, anxiety? Very common in monasteries too. Just maybe one thing to add to what Ajahn Kovilo mentioned is there's a division of the Noble Eightfold Path into 3 categories: sila, virtue, which is often like embodied action; samadhi, so sort of emotional intelligence, like strength of heart, practice of mental states and cultivation; and then panya, wisdom. And I often, like with a hard problem like this, I find using all 3 is useful. So, yes, there's the wisdom aspect, which is seeing when it comes up, oh, here's anxiety again, here it comes, it rises and it falls, it comes and it goes. Seeing the conditions that brought it about, like, oh, actually, I'm in between jobs right now, or relationship, like, of course I'm feeling a bit more, uncertain and unsure, and just seeing that with wisdom, what conditions are leading to it, and just seeing it as impermanent, not self. Someone just recently compared being with your thoughts to being in a room full of squirrels. It's like you have no control over them. That was a Steve. 1,000 squirrels. But yeah, it's not self. It'll come and go. And I think also there's some element when we begin to practice, sometimes, the conditions you have in your life right now might be almost all wholesome. And just reflecting on that, like most of the things in my life right now are good. This is old karma coming up. And when people practice, that happens. The pipes get unkinked, and there can be waves that come through you. And some of that old karma, you don't get to kind of work with in an accessory way. You kind of have to let it work on you. And often in those times, your one job in life is to put one foot in front of the other. It might seem like it's a vast landscape, you don't know where to turn, but actually, you know what today probably should be. And it's like when the seas are really rough, you want to look out to the lighthouse on the horizon and know the whole landscape. But actually, when they're really rough, the waves are big enough, all you need to do is steer into the next wave so you don't capsize. And that means, though you want to go out and find out, what did I do wrong? How do I make sure I never do this again? Coming back in and saying, does my heart feel right in this moment? How does my heart feel right now, right now, right now? Just steer into the next wave. So all that's wisdom. Samadhi, just cultivating loving kindness, every day if you can. When you're really having a hard time, that can be really useful. And then sila, and this is the part that gets missed a lot, is there can be a lot of skillful means you can take externally. So one is, maybe there is something sort of niggling at you, and maybe you do need to ask forgiveness from someone. Or maybe there's some, often doing a ritual can cleanse something, or a ceremony, that can help. I ask forgiveness from the Buddha quite often when I bow, just for any transgression. There's always something, a little bit, not fixating on it. And then also, like, maybe just needing to talk to a friend and work through something, or go to a counselor when it's especially hard. Maybe especially in times of a lot of navigation and uncertainty, maybe it's actually the exact time to go to, a monastery, or even just take a long walk with a Kalyan Amitta spiritual friends. So these are all, for me, elements of sila and things you can do externally. And then writing it out. Often, like, there was a nun at Sravasti Abbey who was having a huge difficulty internally, and Venerable Thupten Chodron, the abbess there, who will be visiting us soon, said, okay, I want you to make a big paper mache of that monster in you. And so she spent like a week, and in the end it was sitting in the middle of the monastery, and Venerable Chodron said, doesn't it feel good to have that out of you? So I write this stuff out a lot too. But just, yeah, you're in good company, and know that often this is part of the practice, as you start to unkink the pipes. And sometimes when people begin to have samadhi, or just any sense of like stillness of mind, they'll start crying for a long time. There's a grief. It's okay, just don't react from it, and hold yourself in compassion. Does that help at all?
Thank you, Ajahn. That was a really beautiful talk, and some thoughts popped up to my mind, that I really like the idea of gradual progression. So if someone is having a lot of social anxiety, it's if they think like I will immediately do something and then the anxiety will go away, it will most likely not go away. It's I think gradual progression is something like slowly it will build up. I'll just give a quick example with many of you guys know that I'm really big into pickleball. And in a match, if I try to record all the matches that I play and then analyze them. And then if I see like one particular shot I'm missing again and again, what I do is I come back home and see a pro player playing in a real, maybe like a high intensity match and how they do that shot. And then next day morning, I go to my court, would take my machine, and then I do not expect anything from myself until I have hit like that particular shot for 10,000 times. So lots and lots of repetition. So it will just not go away immediately. It's a gradual process. So being super friendly to ourselves, being like, okay, like it's okay to mess up. I have not done 10,000 times yet, so not enough repetition. So being, it's okay to mess up, I think. So mess up and then take a step back, think about it, go back, try again. If it's something beneficial, then you think like it's worthy of doing something, just be creative, what works for you, and then keep trying. That's the way I also like taught myself how to swim like 3 years ago. Just trying to get back to the pool again and again and breaking down and one aspect at a time, again and again and again. And very soon I learned most of the strokes, even as an adult. So treat yourself like a baby. Take one baby step at a time. It's okay to mess up. You have not done enough repetition yet, so it's okay to fail. It's expected to fail. But if you think it's beneficial, get up and then move forward. One tiny little baby step. Thank you, Ajahn.
We wouldn't recommend taking that failing approach with jumping in the deep end for swimming too much, Sid. So I'm glad you're okay. Maybe I have one more.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for the meditation instruction. I found it really, really hard to keep my eyes open and kind of felt like getting in touch with a craving to close my eyes that I didn't have. And so I experimented with closing my eyes to see what it was, and what popped into my head was control. And then, so I just wanted to reflect on that and see if you had any advice, because it was such a hard practice for me. I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. But now I'm like, okay, I should do it some more. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good feedback. And I do think it can be useful to experiment, however the extent. There's this also in kind of training language or education, you've got this zone of proximal development that if things are too easy, then you never learn anything because you're just doing the second grade work. But if things are too hard, if you're getting like postdoctorate work and you're in third grade, then you're not learning either. Whereas there's this zone in the middle where you're at your cutting edge. So I think I would recommend actually everybody experiment to some degree, even if it's just like a minute at the end or in the beginning. I do a fair amount of open-eyed meditation, just to dislocate the perception that too many of us have that meditation is what we do with the eyes closed. Because meditation in Pali is bhavana, which is just mental cultivation. And mental cultivation, karma, kama, we're doing it all the time, and whether our eyes are open or closed. So yeah, even if those specific moves don't work for you, what you're doing with your attention, your awareness, with the chitta, with the mind, with the heart, when the eyes are open, that's totally fine. Finding something that does work. But yeah, it's a good thing to do because it does transfer. It's the reason why walking meditation is a really good adjunct to sitting meditation, is because it's, that many more steps closer to our real life, because so little of the time are we just sitting with our eyes closed by ourselves. So walking into the world with eyes open. Yeah.
I also have some trouble with keeping my eyes open, so what I'll do often is a soft focus, like almost have them closed, but a slight slit of light, and that helps me and allow them to cross a bit. and that lets me meditate a bit. And with walking meditation, we wouldn't necessarily advocate eyes closed for that. Although Ajahn Amaro did fall asleep in the middle of walking meditation once and had a nimitta of Ajahn Chah giving him a bunch of golf clubs. And he says to this day he doesn't know if it was just Ajahn Chah playing a trick on him or a sign of something. So, anyways. All right. So we should wrap up now. And we have our special day today. First Saturday of every month, we like to celebrate those who have something to celebrate, including a birthday, etc., in the coming month of October. So, if it is your birthday this month, or you have something that you sort of feel is worthy of celebration, etc., a marriage, or just some other sort of moment, if you would be so bold, if you're up for it, of standing and just coming up to the front and standing up here in a line. This is something we do to embarrass you all a little bit once a month. It's important. No anxiety, just a little bit. And Sid, I think you're going to be leaving this month, and I think at least we can celebrate you. So if you'd also get up here, that would be great. He'll lead the charge. So birthdays. And Brianna, as you'll be probably heading up to Parayana, I think you'd be a good candidate for the front as well. Okay. So what we're going to do is, as we usually do, this is also a great time to get people's birthdays. So if you have your pen ready. Who was the Dana Deva this week, or this month? Jean and Gail? All right, so Jean and Gail made desserts for all of you and everyone here as well. But what we want to do to begin with is maybe just pass the mic down the line, and if people can just say, if it's your birthday this month, what day your birthday is, if you're willing, and something you're grateful for in the last year. And if it's not your birthday, just say why ever it is you're up there, even if it's the monk told you to go up there, and something you're grateful for this year. And you can pass if you're a bit embarrassed. And those on Zoom can raise their electronic hand if it's your coming birthday as well.
My birthday's October 3rd, which was yesterday. And I'm feeling a lot of gratitude right now. I work on the weekends from April through September. So this is my first day back in 6 months, other than the Paba. And you know, sometimes when there's a disaster or something and you look on Facebook and people put up a little flag and say, marked saved from the hurricane or something, so people can see that they're okay all across the country or the world. So I had that image come up, and I feel myself marked safe today to come back in this community and be with all of you. It's just wonderful to be back. Thank you.
So instead of a full-on sadhu, just an Anjali, and we'll save our big sadhu for the end.
Well, today is my birthday. So I was looking forward to this day for a couple months. And I'm actually 75, so it's a big birthday. And I just feel really blessed to have gone around the sun 75 times. And I think what I'm grateful for as I look out here is what Clear Mountain Sangha has added to my practice of Buddhism. And I really treasure all of you every time you show up. And, you know, we might only share a few words, but there's still support for practicing the Dhamma. So thank you all.
I'm here for more than just moral support. Jean and I on Halloween will have been married 55 years. And there's no scars. Only few, but it's wonderful to be able to celebrate with everyone. And thank you for what you offer our lives. And I'd also like to appreciate our family. Hadley, our daughter, is with us today and with us most days since we live in her home.
Hello. I am leaving Washington October 31st, going back home after a long time, about probably 11 and a half years. So I bought a one-way ticket. I'm not quite sure when I'll be back, but I'm very happy and I'm very glad that I met all you guys. When I came to Washington, I didn't know a lot of people, but I met a lot of friends and living with a lot of good memories. And hopefully you guys will remember me in your good thoughts and memories. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bellamy. My birthday is October 24th, and I'm really grateful for the challenging things on the path in the past year. They've been my greatest teacher. No offense to the other teachers in the room, but
Hi, I'm Sean. I'll be turning 40 on Tuesday, so October 7th. I have gone through a really difficult episode of obsessive compulsive disorder and anxiety over the past couple of years, but over the past year I've been coming out of it and returning to my normal life, and I'm really grateful to be entering my 40s with better mental health and good physical health.
Hi, everyone. Like mentioned earlier, I'm going to be venturing away from the community a little bit to stay at another community and to orient my life a little bit towards the potential to ordain, hopefully. And something I'm really grateful for is Kalyanamitta. It's been just so apparent how much I rely on the wisdom and insights of those people who are also following the path. I think it was Ajahn Brahmali who was talking a little bit about sort of not self and Kalyanamitta, and said that if we didn't have other people, we would never actually go anywhere, and that feels really true to me right now. So thank you to all of you.
Hi, I'm Jeremy. My birthday is this coming Friday, and I'm very grateful to have met Anjan's Kovilo and Nisabo on our commutes, and grateful that I understand that we'll be sharing a commute again soon.
Anyone on Zoom for birthdays or otherwise? No? Okay. So, do you want to lead us in 3 big sadhus? No, you're better. I'm not better. Okay. 3 big sadhus for all the people we're celebrating this month. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. You can sit down now. And there will be desserts in the back for everyone, including those who came up. I'm just really happy to celebrate together as a community. This feels like an important part of what we do. Yeah, just call it good. So we have run over the hour mark a little bit, so we're just going to keep it simple, just by asking, are there any people who are here for their first, second, or third time and feeling bold enough just to raise your hand and just tell us your name and how you heard about us, if you want? Please. What's your name one more time? Naomi, welcome. Okay. Yes. Welcome. Welcome. Matt. Welcome. Great to have you. Great. It's great to have you all. As most of you know, monastics in our tradition don't use money. Everything here is freely offered. So please have some of the food in the back. There's so many desserts, it's a little silly. So you should all help us. Super silly, supercilious, or something. But don't frown, supercilii. There's books in the back. Please take some. They're freely offered. If you haven't gotten a name tag, they're in the back, and it really does help others. And try to write on both sides of it so it doesn't flip around and confuse everyone. We also want to just encourage people, this is a beautiful community coming together this time after the actual formal gathering is very sweet. And a lot of these people are just very dedicated, kind practitioners, really worth getting to know. Do consider having your conversation be around the Dhamma. So either a basic question we often encourage people to ask is just what's coming up for you in your week? You know, what's alive for you? Or what gives you, how do you deal with social anxiety? Is that a good one, Ajahn? That's intense. Yeah, you can just fidget silently instead. So, what's alive for you right now? Good. All right. And if you are interested in the land steward role, it is a big one. There's ideas we have for ways of compensating or supporting you if you can't give 20 plus hours a week. It's a big role, and it's one that Clear Mountain needs right now. If you're interested, please do talk to Brianna over here, who is raising her hand. Read the descriptions in the back. We'll post to WhatsApp and Discord this coming week, the details. And you can email steward@friendsofclearmountain.org, the web address on our website if you're interested as well. So, we'll bow to the Buddha, those who want to. And say goodbye to our friends on Zoom. Bye, Zoom friends. You can stick around for Zoom coffee hour if you want.